Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining today's Jerusalem Press Club webinar. I'm Talia Dekel, Vice President of JPC. With the renewal of an Iranian nuclear deal seemingly closer than ever, here in the Middle East, we are wondering whether an agreement will indeed prevent the Islamic Republic from obtaining a weapon, and if so, for how long? Helping us decipher the coming months and perhaps understand Israel's current position is Brigadier General in Reserves, Yaakov Nagel, former head of the Israeli National Security Council and former National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister. Thank you very much for being with us here today, General.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. We just did mention I'm now a senior fellow at the FDD. It's a Washington NGO Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Some of my work were against this horrible Iran deal is being done on behalf of this organization for many years. And yes, I was the National Security Advisor acting for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but I'm not representing here any official view of Israel. I'm presenting my official view of what's going on as one that is really being connected and for sometimes responsible for the negotiations with the Americans and the Europeans from 2013 until 2015. I was the head of the Israeli expert, then a very top secret group that tried to explain them what mistakes they are doing and why they should not sign this deal. So I'm really glad to hear you all. Probably some of you heard me before. Some of you is listening to me sometimes in channel 14 and about 4 or 5 radio channels in Hebrew. Glad to give you my perspective of what's going on, what my assumptions are that is going to happen in the next, I don't know, few hours, days, weeks, months, years. First of all, I'm not talking about politics, so when also we will come to, maybe you'll have questions, don't ask me who is right, who is wrong. I am trying to convince my friends and fellows from the political echelon to disconnect the Iranian topic from the political topic. No matter who did mistakes or did something or did not something or who is doing more than the others, doesn't matter. It's what we have to do, and we have to do. And unfortunately, because we have now an election time, so everyone is trying to use, they are all doing the same, not all the same. They think exactly the same against this one is trying to attack the other one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about politics. This is my introduction. Now, when someone is asking me, I just didn't have time to find this word in English, but someone is asking me to define what's going on now. I call it in Hebrew the dance of, and I don't remember the name of this animal in Hebrew. We call it kipod. This animal with
Porcupine.
Porcupine. Okay, so the dance of the porcupine, like they are dancing very close, but everyone is now trying to keep. So for the last few rounds, after, for example, the last round in Vienna was a total disaster, and the European put on the table the last and the take it or leave it proposal. Since then, before even the Iranian officially responded, they gave them another 3 versions of the last version. In each version, another concession, and still the Iranians said yes, but. So the Americans are playing the same dance again, and they told the answer that the Iranians sent yes, but. So we are now in a situation that both sides have some yes, buts. So we say it in the military jargon. It won't be finished before we say it cannot be finished without another meeting. So probably in Hebrew we say זה לא יעבור בלי עוד דיון. So it cannot go without another. So I know that in the background they are starting to talk about maybe we'll have another meetings. Even so, everyone say no more negotiations. Now, if you ask me what are the biggest dangerous or the biggest showstoppers, or I don't know what, I will start in the end. I am many years in this business, and I know that when two partners want an agreement, at the end, this agreement is happening. So unfortunately, because I think it's a very bad agreement and it will become worse and worse the more the time will go, because the powers, the superpowers are giving concessions, the Iranians are almost giving no concession. I think it will happen, it will end with an agreement. I hope I'm wrong. The only really team I'm counting on not having an agreement is the Iranians. If they continue to make sure that everything they want 100% will happen, maybe there is not going to be an agreement, because even the Americans and the president envoy Mali, he knows that there are areas and things that even the Democrats won't be able to digest. So I don't know. Now ask me what are the 3 or 4 main issues. The biggest one is that it went out now, so it's not a secret, that this agreement is going to be in 4 parts. Now, one of the problems is something that was not supposed to be part of this agreement, because it doesn't have anything to do with the JCPOA or with nuclear agreement, is the Iranian violations of the NPT, the AP, all these old treaties that they are signed on, most of them violations that happened before the JCPOA, about 2003, 4, 5, I don't know when. The issue is calling the open cases, 3, 4 open cases. I'm telling you there are more, but everyone is now talking about 3, 4 cases that the Iranians should answer. The IAEA, the DG Grossi, and the Iranians, Raisi just did the job for me yesterday when he interviewed, and he said there is no meaning to talk about an agreement while the US and the others are not closing all of those investigations. We can't do an agreement while they are doing these investigations. Now, in 2015, there was a case called PMD, possible military dimensions. There were 12 open questions, and then they closed it, but they closed it before also, after they signed the agreement, but not before the implementation. And at the end, the board of governors of the IAEA decided that, without getting answers, that it's okay, we are closing the files for now. It's closing forever. I always say we have to open it again, because if you are closing it, the Iranians should not come clean about the past, so they they are not obliged to tell where are the parts, where are the systems, where are the materials, where are the machines, where are the people that worked on those. And this is mostly about the weapon system development. Now, today, the draft agreement is saying that they are going to start signing. The Iranians will start getting releases, not too much in the beginning, day 120, they are going to get, I don't know, let's say $15 billion in money that is now closed, in an agreement that they can sell 50 million barrels of oil, and some of the sanctions will go down, some not. I'll come to it in a moment. But then after 120 days, and this is the change, Director General Grossi is a professional, he's not a politician, should say he is, you have to answer, did he get the sufficient answers for the open cases or not? Now, there are 2 possibilities. One, and I'm telling you, he's not going to get any answer. This is something that is not debatable. Iranians are not going to answer him a real answers, because they don't have answers, because they violated. And if they are answering the right answers, they will have to come clean on so many things that they don't want to come clean on. So assuming they are not answering, Grossi can say, I didn't get sufficient answers. And they say, okay, then no deal. After they got released, right, not all the releases, not hundreds of billions of dollars, and not all of sanctions relief, but some of the sanctions relief and some money. And then we are in the middle. it's bad. But the worst thing is that nothing will happen, and it will be a pressure. And maybe you won't understand in the beginning what I'm saying. The Americans that maybe would not like to go to an agreement, but they would like to continue giving concessions, will tell him, you know what, consist on what you want. So we're in a limbo. It's the worst thing. It will continue in a limbo. The other way is that all the powers, the parties would like an agreement, so they are lifting the phone to Grossi, telling him, sorry, Mr. Grossi, you are going to tell the world that you are satisfied with the answer that you didn't get. He can argue, maybe even resign. I don't think so, because everyone knows what he wants to be in the future. So it will happen again as it was in 2015 with one big change. Not the Board of Governors, it's a political echelon doing it. It's the Director General Grossi. All the honors is on his back. Now, two of my good friends of the FDD, Andreas Stricker and Anthony Ruggiero, just wrote an op-ed saying that the DG Grossi is the only one standing between the bad agreement and the world. I like them very much. I think that in this case, their assumptions are correct, the conclusion not, because he will not stand alone against everyone. When he will get I don't want even to be blunt, but it will be blunt. When he will get an order to say that he is satisfied, he will say he is satisfied. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think so. This is what happened for the last year or two when he wrote very good reports on what the Iranians did, and he was ordered not to publish those reports. To finish the story about the IEA, I say the IEA is a very important agency that should be the monitoring and verification of the agreement. One of the main things they are saying very good about the 2015 agreement, that it was unprecedented verification and monitoring, assuming it's right. But when they did this verification and monitoring, and they found all these faults, when you do nothing with it, what is the meaning of having an unprecedented verification and monitoring when you find these breaches, you do nothing with? So this is, and the dangers of dragging the professionals of the IEA to the debate is meaning that really all the job, all the status of this very important agency will go to train. It will worth nothing because everyone understands they are not doing their job. So this is the biggest problem. There are also two more things that are open. For example, the order of sanctions relief. What will be first day? What will be after 165 days? Things that are the guarantees that the Iranians crazy demand. Probably this is maybe the demand they will, soften or go down. That they want no future president will withdraw from the agreement like Trump did before. It's not legal, so they are trying now to find words that at least while Biden is president, he is going to promise them with guarantees. They want, I don't know, economical guarantees, some guarantees. Maybe they will go to court for guarantees, I don't know. Guarantees that no president, at least not Biden, and they want that all the contracts that companies will sign with the Iranians while Biden is the president will be valid for at least 2.5 or 2 or 3 years from the signing. There are more other, for example, the Congress verification on ratifying. At least at the beginning, the Americans said, no, we don't have to bring, Mali said, we don't have to bring it to Congress. It's just going back to 2015. They understood it's not. And this is another mistake people are doing. These 4 stages will go back to 2015. This is the biggest mistake. There is no way we can go to 2015 because we are 8 years later.
If I may interject, just there are a lot of questions coming in from the journalists.
I'm finishing in 5 minutes. Okay, and I'm open to questions. So some people, so I'm saying no one can go to 2015 because of all this problem. Now, what to do? One of the most important things, and again, people are misleading it, we have to put a credible military threat on the table. The only language that the Iranians understand. Now, everyone remember the 2003 and 2011, but all of the people forgetting Trump withdrew from the agreement 2018. And yes, the Iranians did some violations, but then January 2020, Soleimani was eliminated. From January 20 until Biden was elected, the Iranians continue some violations, but they didn't do any new violations. And then Biden was elected, most of the violations, most of the things that are now under an agreement, they want to save, they want to take the centrifuges, the advanced centrifuges, and keep them in Iran, yes, under IAEA verification, but then they can tell them go home. So you have to put a credible military threat on the table. Otherwise, the Iranian doctrine will work. They have 4 legs. 1, US, Biden is weak. They are not going to attack. Second, unfortunately, it's wrong, but unfortunately, some Israelis are helping him to say, Israel, see what America does. They are weak, and they are not. They see that American weak. They cannot do it alone, so they are not attacking. We can withstand the sanctions, and we don't see any threat. And the last thing I want to say, and I really didn't go into all the faults and the sunset and all the faults of the current horrible agreement, is some people are saying, even in Israel, that a bad agreement is better than a good war. This is one of the biggest mistakes. It's not that we are, putting on the equilibrium bad agreement or good war. A bad agreement will lead us for sure to a worse and very bad war. So if we need to do something, we have to confront the Iranians now with no agreement. So no agreement is better than a bad agreement. The best thing is a good agreement, one that really keeps Iran for centuries away from being a threshold country or having a bomb. The agreement as it is now is a license to become a threshold country and to build a bomb. I finished my agreement, but I'm open to questions. I have a lot more to say, but I think I gave you in really, really short presentation the way I see what's going on now. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So yes, definitely, I think it's very clear about the elements of the agreement and the history towards it that are problematic on all the different fronts. If we can move the conversation a little bit over to Israel and how we're dealing with things on the ground here, assuming that things do move forward and an agreement does get signed, what do you think Israel can do to soften the blow per se, and what backup could it be preparing? Another question that's come in is what is a credible military threat at the end of the day to which Israel might need to respond?
And again, military plans and others, but when I'm saying credible military threat, is a credible military threat. It will be better that it will come from, because the Iranian problem is not an Israeli problem, it's an American and world problem. And if someone remembers 2018, the hypocrisy of the Europeans, they came to Trump and telling him, don't withdraw from the agreement. We came to we agreed with the Iranians, they are going to stop developing missiles more than 2,000 kilometers. So Israel and the Gulf, it's okay, we can be diminished, but Europe and US are okay. So when I'm saying credible military threat, look, the Iranians are now starting to build ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles. When they will finish it, the problem won't be Israeli, or it will be all US. And they should put a military threat, like killing Soleimani. Like now, a credible military threat is not just 200 planes taking the air and going to Iran. It's one part. There is cyber, this psychological war. It's affecting the regime. I'm starting to talk with FDD friends on, remember the Reagan doctrine of 1970 something against the Soviet Union. It started to be the multi-threaded doctrine to weaken the Soviet Union. We have to build a full thorough plan to weaken. I'm not talking about regime change. Democracies are not changing regimes in other countries, but to weaken the clerical Islamic the clerical regime in Iran, and there are many ways how to do it. So it's not only kinetic threats; it's many parameters, cyber and psychological, and denying service from the citizens. Even so, our war is not against the citizens; it's against the regime in Iran. They have to understand that they are under an attack. Now, just according to foreign press, a lot of things that happened in Iran lately. Now, I cannot do it. I can buy one-way ticket to Iran. But if you can go to Iran, go to the market and ask people, there are parties in every corner or other places. It's good that they will be under a severe pressure. One of their generals and high-rank leaders just say that they are all over here. The Israelis and their agents are all over here, and we don't know what to do. They are good that they will be in paranoia. Again, without going into details about what credible military threat. Now, what Israel can do, if the agreement will be signed, there will be a problem. Now, I'm not naive. This is what happened from 2015 and 2000 until 2018, and this is also maybe some of the reasons. I don't think it was right or wrong, but that under an agreement, it will be very difficult to Israel to do things against Iran alone. We are going to do it, and as in Israel, it's don't believe. Sometimes people are talking. Sometimes they are sometimes they are officials undercover. I call it, but the chief of staff, the head of Mossad, and all of our political echelon, the previous, the current, and the future one, are all men. So we are saying, and it's not a cliche, but it's not a cliche, that Israel is keeping the freedom of action. We are not obliged by this agreement, and we will do whatever needed to make sure that Iran will not be nuclear. And I'm telling you, take this sentence seriously. It's not a cliche. Now, some people are saying in Israel, they are wrong, that maybe it's a bad agreement, but it's better than the alternative, because we will have 3, 2, 4 years to prepare better for doing the confrontation with Iran, and then maybe there will come in a new American president, and they will withdraw, and then we'll be ready better. It's wrong. It's a wrong thing, because that we need more. We always can do better, and we always can have better equipment. But what we'll do in these 3 years to prepare things to attack or to confront a problem that won't exist in 3 years. Because in 3 years, the Iranians will take their system to the immune zone, underground. They will be able, in the first 4 next months, even when they decide to go to agreement, on the first 4 months, 120 days, no IEA supervision, no monitoring. They can, in this time, take enough sufficient materials, other components, things, I don't know, and putting it someplace. The moment this is the declaration, the definition of a threshold country, that they have enough weapon system, fissile material for a bomb or 2, and then no one can stop them from being, that should not decide to be a nuclear state, but when they are coming to a stage that no one can stop them from being a nuclear threshold, a nuclear state, then they are a nuclear threshold state. So this is something that will happen in the next 3 years. So what is the meaning of preparing in 3 years and having time? Under an agreement, it will be very tough to do what we need.
Okay, we only have time for a couple more questions, so we will try to be concise. You mentioned your work vis-a-vis the Americans over the last few years in terms of consulting them over this issue. Given that the movement towards talks over the last couple of months kind of caught us by surprise in Israel, at least publicly, can you tell us what the dynamics are between the American and Israeli administrations in terms of moving forward?
Look, I'm not in the administration now, but I know something. in the previous one, we had a group, mostly technological one. There was tension between Obama and Netanyahu. So maybe in those levels they spoke a lot, but they were after the Congress speech, maybe they spoke less. The technological data were forwarded. Some of it they took, some of it not. And yes, they cut the connection between us only for the last 9, 8, 10 months, 10 weeks of the sitting in Geneva or Vienna and writing the final agreement. Also now, the people that are responsible for it, Dr. Eyal Chulata, my successor of the NSA and the MFA, the DG Ushpiz and Josh Jarka and all others, they are in a continuous talk with their counterparts, passing them, Jake Sullivan, of course, with Sullivan and his team, and Blinken and his team, passing them our concerns. And we know what's going on, not always. And I don't like to word we were surprised. It's always when something happened, it's a surprise. We know when a negotiation is going on. You know that we have also a good intelligence, so we know things that are going on. So we are not surprised. Sometimes we are, some things are happening. We are surprised with on things that are happening. But Israel knows what's going on, and all of our concerns are being forwarded. The difference between the current administration and the previous one is the previous one decided that it goes all out loud in the media, in TV, in the US media, in the Congress. And the current one decided that they don't want to argue with the Americans, especially over the table. They did it under the table. They are doing it in closed rooms. I'm not going to go into this political debate. As I said in the beginning, I think that we have to take out the one issue from the political debate and from the elections, because both sides want the same, no agreement. How to do it, you judge. I don't want to go to politics. So it's running, it's working. Is it going to make the agreement not signed? I don't know. But we are being heard. We have been heard in the past. It's a mistake of those that say we are not. Not everything that we said, most of it, they didn't agree, didn't accept, but they heard our concerns, they heard our proposals, they heard our advices. The same for the last year and a half. They are hearing us. Sometimes they are doing things because of what we are saying, sometimes no. At the end, Biden said in his election campaign, I want an agreement. And he nominated all the people that were responsible for the first JCPOA, so it's their child. Wendy Sherman, Rob Malley, nephew that resigned because he didn't agree to Malley way, and all the others. So it's not a surprise that Malley is running for an agreement. This is, for him, it's a religious. It's not a mission. For him to have an agreement, it's a religious.
Okay, so just one follow-up question to that. We understand that we're not going to get into politics, and specifically not this election campaign. It's clear that all parties will use whatever platform they have to deal with that issue. But if we can fast forward maybe to the day after, whatever government will be in Israel, whether it's Netanyahu or somebody else, how do you think that government might deal with a situation in which, this is a fact, the agreement exists, maybe with a more, as you mentioned, some kind of legislation, American legislation in place to prevent it from being withdrawn from. How can the next Israeli administration deal with, the facts on the ground?
I think I answered these questions. Use all means to make sure that Iran will not be nuclear. Under an agreement.
And do you think that the person in charge in Israel will?
It's never mind who is going to be in charge. We are going to do all again. I assume that Ayman Uda is not going to be the prime minister. Maybe if he will be the prime minister, things will change. But if Netanyahu candidate Gantz or Lapid or others will be prime minister, they will do whatever they can to prevent Iran from being nuclear. All the means I just mentioned before. Again, head of Mossad did great job when he pointed out all of his concerns, and he is 100% sure that the agreement will be, it's a done deal. I want to be a little bit optimistic, so I'm saying it's 90 to 95%. But still, it's not 50 or less than some of the Europeans. No, we are not optimistic, it is 50-50. It's more than 90% that this will be an agreement. So if there is an agreement, we'll have to do it alone. And we'll have to weaken Iran, Reagan doctrine, cyber attacks, preparing ourselves to maybe other attacks, affecting the regime, and putting a credible military threat on the table. Even if Israel will have to do it alone, the Iranians should understand that some irresponsible Israelis saying Israel cannot do a military threat, they are talking nonsense. When Israel will need to put this military threat on the table and to operate under it, we will be able to do it. And we don't have to wait 3 years or 2 years or 5 years or 1 week. And I'll finish with an anecdote. When we were working before the previous agreement, very weekly or monthly classified video conferences with Wendy Sherman. Amidror was then the national security. I was his deputy responsible on the Iranian case. And we were talking and finish. And then every day she said, what is going on about the attack on Iran? When you are going to do it? So he was going to the window, open the curtain, look on the sky and say, look, I don't see planes in the sky. So probably it's not going to be today. When we are going to do it? In the moment that we will decide that tomorrow is going to be too late. And this sense didn't change. We'll decide that tomorrow will be too late. We'll have to bear the consequences and do what we need to make sure that what we are, everyone is promising in these elections and is really believing Iran is not going to be a nuclear. Now, Biden also said Iran is not going to be nuclear. He made a mistake in the beginning, say, under my shift. Then he understood it's a very bad sentence. Say, never. I'm not sure he's meaning to do what is needed to prevent Iran from being nuclear. In Israel, every government, when we say we cannot allow Iran to be nuclear, we mean what we are saying.
Okay, very, very clear, Brigadier General in Reserves and Professor Yaakov Nagel, former head of the National Security Council and fellow at the FDD in Washington. Thank you very much for your time, and may we all have a quiet summer.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed that briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. If you did, like the video and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of our future content.